Welcome to the JAMODI Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it.
The JAMODI Podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products. Are you guys the Bears?
Bruins.
Bruins. What is it? A Bruins a bear?
Bruins a bear.
Anyway, but specifically, you're a Bruin. And what is one thing that makes the Bruins program different?
You know, I just think the investment that I have in it, the investment of our people in general. Like I said, my alumni are awesome. They're invested, in me and in our program, and they've taken to me as far as being an outsider, really, and coming in and my grade school people, like I said, my youth leagues. I think the investment, but I also think just the dedication that I have to make this the premier program in the state of Indiana. Like I said, I'm a dreamer, man. For me, it's, just enough isn't enough. And so for me, I want to compete for state titles every year. I want our program to be the standard and not the rule. I want teams to not want to play us. It's like the Miami Heat, they talk about like, we ain't for everybody, and I want to make sure that people know that, so I think, and the other thing is too, man, like, nobody's going to work for as hard for their players as I am, as my staff is, one of the things that, like I said, like the social media thing, I'm making sure that I'm on social media. I send out our schedule to college coaches every week. I'm on the phone constantly. Let's get to practice. Let's, here's this kid, here's that kid, because the guys that want to play college basketball, I'm going to push for them. But also on top of it, the guys that don't want to play college basketball, I'm trying to get them internships, trying to get them other things where they can be successful outside of it. So, I think that just really is what separates us is, our dedication to it. And dedicated to making guys better. Like, I just have this like sick of like sickness in me where it's like, I just want to be on the floor all the time. My sister-in-law thinks that I'm a nut job because all I want to do is, play, get me on the floor. And she's like, can't you take your family to Disney? I'm like, well, maybe for a day or two, but I got to be back for practice. It's like, so, just, stuff like that, for me, that was something that when I came into the high school stuff was, I just wanted them to know that I'm all in, I'm 10 toes in, and that's all I ask my players to be is 10 toes in. And I think that's what separates them, whether it's my grade school, middle school, or high school. I don't know. There's a lot of programs where their varsity coaches coaching their 7th and 8th grade team on a Sunday afternoon. Right. It's just not like, for me, that's all I wanted to do. So my wife and I argued about that for about 3 weeks on whether I was going to do it or not. And I said, look, I'm doing it. We're going to do it Sunday afternoons. I'm going to go coach these guys. And, I try to make our guys AAU games whenever I can to make sure that they know that I'm present and I want to watch them and I want to be around them. And so just that dedication to making a big time where you're at, and I tell our guys, like, I don't care if we're, if we're a smaller school in the area or if we're the biggest school in the area, we're going to treat ourselves like we're like the number one team in the state every year. And we got to make sure that when we walk onto the floor, that's the same thing, but we're in the community that we handle ourselves the right way too, because who you are off the floor is a direct correlation to who you are on it. I truly believe that. So that's the long-winded answer to that, but
no, that's good.
I'm a talker.
It's
so
good. I think a lot of great coaches have a level of they're obsessed to a point with their program, with their players, with excellence and trying to figure out better ways. But then you hear the bad side of that, whether you're a player or a coach, where you almost forget everything else and everything else is second. Families are torn apart.
50%.
Coaches burn out. How do you keep that level of all in, maybe partly obsessed with the process, but how do you keep the line and keep it in perspective?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I've been horrible at that for 10 years. And so my daughter's special needs. And so she, when we IUPUI, when we got let go this past March, there was a lot to think about. And so I had opportunities to stay in the college game. But we were required moving again. And my daughter has just unbelievable therapies here, unbelievable support group, people that love her, people that if anything were ever happened to me, she'd still be able to thrive. And so for me, staying here in the state of Indiana and turning into a high school job was a family decision. And it's been an unbelievable decision. I'm in an unbelievable situation, and the Lord's blessed me with that and guided me the right way. But it's helped put me in perspective of reprioritizing my life, right? And I think that that's huge as a coach. Of you have to have a supporting wife, which I do. Nobody lives in 7 cities in 10 years and doesn't, and gets and moves and everything like that.
She's all in, man.
And she is, and she has a great support system here too. And so for me, seeing my daughter's progress since I've been home has really made it really easy to make that transition of separating the two, right? Yeah. And the best thing I'll ever be is dad. And so just understanding that, reprioritizing your life. I think that you got to, one of the things that I started to do is when I get home every night, and I did this more in college than I do now, was put my phone up in our mudroom where I couldn't get to it, take my watch off for 3 hours a night. I encourage younger coaches that have families to do that. That text message can wait.
What were your times for that? Like, when would you?
So I would get home usually around like 6:30 or 7, and then I would just leave my phone in. And I actually had an accountability partner, one of my best friends. He did the same thing. So we'd get home at the same time. We text each other and say, hey, putting our phone up, we'll text you in 2 hours or whatever. So it'd be like 6:30 or whatever. We get home, phone went away. Hey, I'll text you in 2 hours, 9 o'clock, whatever it was. And that's how we knew that we were off our phones. And so we held each other accountable with that, which I thought was good. Because at the end of the day, like, man, like that parent that you got to talk to for that recruit, it can wait. Your daughter can't wait. My daughter, like, every day, there were days I was on the road for 15 straight days at one point recruiting one time. And this is when it kind of hit me. I came home that night, and after being like almost 2 weeks on the road, and I had to get to a local high school game when I got home. So I came home just to shower and go back out. And my daughter, who said, I think like 30 words at the time, said, "Daddy, don't go." And that was the first sentence she ever put together was, "Daddy, don't go." I'm like, okay, now stuff's starting to get a little bit serious here, And so I think that, just understanding that, like, your family, they sacrifice a lot. They deserve more than what you're giving them. I told my wife the other day, no matter how much I give, I'm never going to be able to give enough for what she does and what my daughter does. But she's understanding of that, right? And she's understanding that I'm giving as much as I possibly can. And I can't say that I always did that. That I always gave as much as I possibly can. But now I think I'm in a pretty good spot with that. And seeing my daughter thrive, I think, has been a big part of that. So,
man, thank you again for sharing that as well. Made me think of a buddy of mine. His name's Matt Garnett, and Matt we've been working MG basketball camps together for maybe 12, 13 years now, maybe even more, but it's MG. So after him, it's his camps, but I've kind of partnered with him, and we do 2 or 3 of those in the summer. But when I met Matt, he was the head coach at Wayland Baptist, coach at McMurray, and he was moving up the line. And he had 3 daughters at the time, and they're really young then. I just thought, like, kind of a Chris Beard's trajectory, how where he started and where he went. Like, this is that guy, and such a good teacher, brilliant, but charismatic, can talk to anybody. And so I just always thought, like, it's just a matter of time before Matt. And then a few years ago, he called me and he's like, hey, I just want to let you know I'm getting out. It's like, what do you mean you're getting out? What are you going to do? He's like, I think I'm just going to find a high school teaching job. I was like, are you going to coach? He's like, no, I don't think so. I was like, you got to tell me more, man. And it was basically, he realized he was missing it. He was missing his daughter's life. He wasn't, all 3 of them, he wasn't there. And that was the route that he was going. Completely gave up this dream and all the work that he put in, but never once has he regretted it. Never once is they, golly, what if I woulda? And now he is a high school coach in the Austin area.
Okay.
And he's coaching his daughters. And he's going to just create this incredible culture there with them. But I think it's good to hear stories like yours and hear stories like Matt, when we start to think that the job, our success, where we're headed, getting to whatever I'm a fan of Frosty's book myself. I think just a healthy dose of perspective when you hear stories like yours, a story like Matt. So appreciate that, man.
Hey, no, and like I said, like, am I perfect at it? Absolutely not. Is it a daily grind? Absolutely. Because I do miss college. I miss things about college, but at the same time, to me, as much as I miss college, I miss my daughter a lot when I was gone.
Yeah.
And I came home tonight and it was daddy, daddy, daddy.
That's a win.
And I say everybody right now, everybody at Tri-West likes me because I haven't lost a game yet.
That's right. This is the honeymoon phase, Coach. Except
tell me
the fact
everybody
that you got
right
tossed out already, so you've already done that.
Well, the crazy thing about that was I got tossed on Tuesday afternoon, in a game on Wednesday. Everybody in the community knew. I was like, do you guys you guys have like a
We
community?
got Bobby Knight on our hands here. That's
right. Like the local Dairy Queen had it out on the sign out stuff. 48 hours into his tenure,
Yeah.
I'm an intense guy though. Like I told I tell my players, you gotta be who you are.
Yep.
You gotta be who you are. And for me, it's I'm an intense guy, and I'm now the only thing I ask of the officials is that you hustle, and you know the rules, and he didn't do either. In all fairness, but
man, it is tough when they're barely. We try to run and gun down, and with our style of play, and when that dude's not crossing half court, you want to feel like you got to help him along. And
I was good until he asked me if I wanted to stay there, and then I told him not if you're going to be here. So that was. Apparently, that's not the answer.
Coach, you said the thing that we all want to say that most of us never will. So appreciate that.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.